Hello, I'm Jill Marie, founder of SVH and Serenity Worldwide, and I've got a huge surprise for you. The topic of our discourse today is surplus. And throughout this discussion about blocks to allowing the self to flourish, we're going to be implementing some advanced clearing parameters that work with your higher consciousness and your soul to identify genetic and learned behaviors that have been limiting you from fueling a surplus of all that would support your ability to manifest what you need and then some. Near the end of this talk, I'm going to guide you through authorization steps that light the way for Creator to implement the clearings and to activate a new tool that we're going to be using to assist us to become consciously aware of limiting thinking, and to help us to fuel a prosperity consciousness mindset that stimulates the attraction of surplus into our life. Now, we're all so grateful, of course we are, that we've got so much. And plenty is really kind of the mindset of what we have. We've got enough, we've got plenty. And that plenty has been sustaining us. And it's been helping us to have a prosperous life and a really nice lifestyle. You know, none of us is really struggling or starving or living out of our car. We have enough. However, having enough, as grateful as we are for it, is not really the lifestyle that we would choose, nor is it fully aligned with prosperity consciousness. You know, back in the day, having enough meant that you had enough of what you needed to get you through the winter, so you survived to the spring. Do you see why having enough is great? If you've had enough, you lived. But it's not really a buzzword for living the life that we're destined to live. You know, there's all kinds of little behaviors that we've picked up along the way that have kind of kept us in that mindset of just living within the status quo, though. Have you ever looked at your grocery store receipt to count up the money that you're going to be having to spend? Or maybe counting along as you filled the cart, just so you know what it was going to be when you got to the cash register? Well, sometimes people even put things back on the shelf because they're concerned that they'll overspend. And so they put things back, or they don't believe that they can manifest enough money to be able to fill the coffers so that they can have all the things that they want. Now, these are also the actions of someone that's being mindful about their finances, and that needs to be honored. However, if the belief of remaining in the, let's say, the grid of that circumstance doesn't allow your focus to elevate you beyond the need to watch every penny, like, for instance, it's always going to be that way, I'm always going to have to watch. These are the kind of mindsets that are fueling the situation and holding us in those spots. Now, that might not have anything to do with you. That might just be the mindset of our great-grandparents or our parents or somebody in collective consciousness that we witnessed having those beliefs, but we certainly learned them somewhere. Now, anybody can dig themselves into a financial hole, but to stay in that hole or continue to make plans for a forever future of living down there is limiting your ability to change your dynamic. It's limiting you from rising back to an even playing field and elevating to a lifestyle at that point that supports your innate ability to create what you desire. It's even possible to lock oneself into the hole by dreaming of fairy tale realities with let's say, a simultaneous ownership of the lesser circumstance you're in. So here you are, you're dreaming, oh, I'm going to be saved, this is going to happen, I'm going to get the lottery, or this is going to happen and I will be saved. Instead of choosing to change your circumstance and looking for the way out of that situation, because all that sets up a roller coaster of energy dynamics that those, block you being able to fuel a way out. So while digging you deeper into the hole, it's, kind of keeping you in that mindset. Now, fairy tales can come true. And people do win the lottery, but not when they are stirred into the same soup with mental recrimination, shame, beliefs that you don't deserve the fairy tale, or that you're never, ever going to be able to this or that. See, these are the kind of words and thought forms we're going to be watching for and using our tools for. So if we're going to move into prosperity consciousness, it's important to expect that you always are going to have more than enough to pay for anything that you would desire, and that there's always going to be extra left over after you spend everything that you would ever spend on your bills and other expenses and some luxuries. See, prosperity consciousness espouses that there will always be extra, a surplus that keeps building and growing. And these are the clearing topics that we're going to be working with over the next few minutes. We'll start off with some questions because they will help us to identify areas of the self that are blocking you from fueling prosperity consciousness and, of course, money and surplus of resources that assist you to feel exceedingly abundant and safe and cared for and, of course, supported. Now, as I conversationally ask you some questions, I'm going to be speaking to your conscious mind and also your subconscious. So your SVH clearing formats are going to be identifying the seeds and foundations of genetic and current life learned patterns and blocked energies that have been limiting you from creating a surplus that's more than what is needed or used, because that's our goal. So that's all going to be identified based on, the questions that I'm asking and how you respond. And it's like peeling an onion. It's going to peel off whatever pieces that the questions stimulate. And then, of course, we'll authorize the clearing later. It's going to be amassing as we're working through here, because a lot of the things that I'm going to be saying are going to stimulate random inner dialogue, and it's going to show us where some of the barriers and blocks are lodged. And we're going to be able to kind of shake them loose and shift the energy around them with the SVH clearing. So here is the question. Are you afraid that you won't have enough money to live on well past your retirement age? That's a really good question. It's also a trick question, really, because most people I know that are 65 or 70 are working more than they did at age 20, and they're making tons of dang money. So that was a good question, though, and it will point right at a lot of the imprinting that came about post-war, because that's when, a lot of people were really keyed into their retirement and having a good retirement program and getting paid, a sum of money every month after the fact that you've worked 40-something years. And this allowed us with the SVH clearing to dig into some areas that you might have in learned response for fears that could come up around this that would have been in the collective consciousness that you grew up in. Let me ask another question. Do you currently have a surplus, more than you could possibly use, a surplus of resources? Now, that's a question that you'll say yes or you'll say no. You might say, well, I've got 10,000 in savings, or I've got, 2 million in my superannuation or my retirement or whatever it is. But the question is a good one. Do you have extra right now? Now, if you spend a chunk of it, would you start feeling vulnerable until you built your surplus back up to that magic number that you feel comfortable with? If that's the case, the amount you spent is not your surplus. It's your reserve funds. You see, there's a difference. I think if you look at your extra right now, you'll agree that the energy of it is linked to the mindset of saving for a rainy day, which essentially is holding funds in preparation for bad things, bad times. Surplus is not rainy day funds. Surplus is the kind of energy you might imagine associated with a treasure chest. A treasure chest that just keeps filling up, more and more gold coins just keep going in till it starts spilling over. And that's the kind of energy, mindset, and focus that releases the conscious and subconscious minds from their task of counting. They're always counting. Is there going to be enough? Is this going to be too much spent? It's like you got an accountant somewhere in your energy field that's constantly counting, but it never counts surplus. And when there is so much that the treasure chest is bulging and coins are spilling over with no agenda for where the funds might be directed, then none of those resources are actually earmarked for anything, are they? They're just extra. They're just there, in excess of anything required. It's just sitting there. That's the exciting piece that we are focusing on right now. We all grew up post-war, which definitely colored the mindsets of our parents, which then kind of carried on to us. But the sense of concern or even fears about being caught off guard and not having enough is really as old as our earliest ancestors. Survival meant having enough. And in many cases, every day was fraught with life and death circumstances. Now, I honor their courage and I honor their commitment to survive. And now, of course, in the age we live, we don't really face those kinds of life and death circumstances like they did. You see, we have the privilege to stretch beyond the mental focusing of survival and shift our mindset to one of thriving. See, now to reinforce that focus, maybe the place to start is for us to get some numbers in our mind, okay? Now, what's the monthly or yearly revenue that you believe is required for you to feel abundant? Now, I know that the first thought is almost always 40 million. But let's be dedicated here, because you don't know if your subconscious programming, is going to catch hold of that and dig you into a pit just in order to prove to you that you can't get 40 million or hold on to it. So let's just really just reel back here and let's be sensible. I didn't ask what you'd do if you manifested a genie or won the lottery. In fact, if you don't know this already, buying a lottery ticket, hoping to win, is fun from time to time. But buying a lottery ticket with the mindset of the need to win, or even hanging all hopes of winning on everything in order to have your dreams come true or to change your life, literally pours water on your manifestation fires that you have been fueling to create wonderful things in your life. And it just digs the hole that a person is in even deeper if they're in one. See, the energy of lottery or lotto stops constructive ideas from flowing. And it fuels just this energy that stops the improvement of circumstances, except of those that entail your use of the winnings. Of course, this is all contingent on whether or not you win, though, you see. So it just stops everything. Everything just stops. And this, of course, redirects energy that normally would be fueling and supporting your desires and your manifestations to basically hinge on you beating the millions to one odds to win. And it's a tricky situation because it literally freezes intelligent people and they just sit there waiting and dreaming with no energy to fuel their realities, and they're just stuck on the roller coaster cycles of gambling mentality. Now, we are consciously creating our realities, and today we are starting small with this exercise, but we're doing that so that we can grow to be able to create big. So I'll ask you the question again. If you didn't have a genie or a pile of money from the lottery, what is the monthly or yearly revenue you believe is required for you to feel abundant? It's a very important exercise. It's for you to find that number. So keep listening and do these steps of this exercise later, or pause the program in a few minutes when you have the steps and then resume once you have the answers that we're looking for. But that's a really important set of numbers because that is realistically what you believe will assist you to have a more abundant life and will take away the concerns that sometimes not having money to pay for specific things could cause, okay? This gives you a focus for the beginning of a really powerful manifestation. Because wouldn't that be the first thing to manifest? More than enough. At that point, you could start manifesting bigger because you will have rid yourself of the issues that would limit you from believing that you can create what you desire. Now, when you review your life as it is now, I'd like you to, number two, I'd like you to see, imagine what you are grateful for right now. What are you grateful for right now? The place that you live, the resources to live as you do. Even if it feels like a little bit of a struggle, I know that you're grateful for what you have. And if you're not, well, we'll catch it in the clearing. So just keep on going. But let's think about the things that you're grateful for. Thank you, God, that I have a roof over my head and it's comfortable. I love my blankets and my pillow. I love my cats. I love that I always have plenty of food and that, I love electricity and that my house is heated and, all these things. Thank you, God. And I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for those things. Okay. That's another task, is to really think about what you're grateful for, because when you're grateful, it's easy to manifest an upgrade, isn't it? Because otherwise you're saying, oh, I want a new house because I hate this one. What does that do? That pours water on your manifestation fire. There's really no movement at that point. So what would you create? What does an upgrade look like to you right now? What does an upgrade look like? And please leave your desire for a penthouse in Manhattan Central Park West for another time, okay? We're on the ground level on Master Manifesting right now. So let's just be really realistic. Maybe an upgrade would be that your house is paid for, or that you have moved to a bigger one that you like better. Or maybe your fantasy is not to own a house at all, but to rent a wonderful place and be free to move around and experience living all over the world. Remember, we're leaving the genie in its bottle still, so we can constructively unearth childhood imprinting and genetic predispositions that limit you from mindfully designing an upgrade to your current circumstances. So I'm not trying to dumb down your manifestation possibilities. That's not even possible. But what I'm saying is, let's think of what an upgrade would look like. So we've got, what is the magic number that your mind believes that if it flowed into your treasure chest every month, every bill would get paid, everything would get paid. All the extra funds would be right there to afford luxuries and an occasional spontaneous trip to somewhere exotic. It's just, these are the kind of things what is that number? What are you grateful for? And what does the upgrade look like? Now let's ponder that rainy day formula piece, because that's got to shift. Because we want the clearing parameters to catch any creation flowing to the need for such a reserve. Especially if that rainy day scenario is fueling a potential for enough money to cover you or a member of your family should they get cancer or have some other disaster. See, we never want to save for a disaster. I know that sounds crazy and it doesn't sound like anything our parents would have taught us. But if you understand the laws of attraction, you never want to save for a disaster, because that mindset fuels a potential for the magnetization of that reality flowing into your life. It says, okay, I'm ready for it. I got that money, or I almost got that money for it. And if you almost got it, if you've got programming and formatting that says, you'll never reach your goals in time and disaster will always hit when you have less than enough, then that kicks in that bad things are coming sooner. So we never, ever, ever want to save for a disaster. And we absolutely never want to give energy to lesser circumstances, and certainly not something like cancer. Okay, so we hold that vision of gratitude that we started off with, and the vision of our upgraded lifestyle, and what our realistic number is for the amount it would take to flow into our treasure chest every month, just guaranteed it's coming in, so that every bill would get paid, there'd be extra funds, luxuries, whatever we desire, and the number for your surplus won't be something you define, okay? It will be defined by what you will allow, which, of course, you will every day become more and more allowing of it to be lots. Because we have a new SVH trigger process called surplus, and that's going to assist you to raise the bar on the surplus and the levels of surplus every day. Now remember that the conscious and subconscious mind never count the surplus. So it's like got a free pass to just build up and create, and it's there for you to spend if you want it. But it's not part of any of the things that, are required to live. This is just extra. So now that you have a conscious vision of what a reasonable upgrade in life circumstances would look like, you are ready to begin imprinting within yourself the vision of thriving. Now, when you have surplus, the creative mind flows to envision infinite possibilities. And it does that because one of the major stop gaps in manifestation that shows up between inspiration and the forming of incredible realities is the belief that not having enough money limits your ability to create what your heart and mind could easily fuel into reality if the naysaying cranium brain would only get out of the way. And of course, it's going to do that, which will allow the surplus, which will then get rid of any of the blocks that can come into place that would stop you from allowing the infinite possibilities and the ideas to flow to you. Now, I have to say, first of all, that the cranium brain has served us all well over the years. It's kept us alive. It runs the body. We stuff thoughts into it. And it will continue to serve us and be, a wonderful resource. However, those of us awake and in an awakened state are learning that it's more important to follow the beat of the drum of the heart consciousness mind. That's the primary brain. And so your heart mind that's the one that puts the wings of flight on the vision of each of your desires and fuels infinite potentials. Whereas the ego and the cranium brain, well, they tend to overthink, to work overtime, to remind you of why your desires are ridiculous and impossible, and all the while projecting visual and even auditory predictions of how and why you will fail, and stretching beyond the financial footprints made by your parents and maybe even your ancestors. And so the cranium brain initially follows whatever directive your thoughts and words and actions put out there. So it's imperative to eradicate conscious mental ruminations and negative thought forms, because the negativity you consciously support suppresses the creative flow that's supported by your heart consciousness. Your heart consciousness must allow the content and vibrational resonance of the formats that you lay focus on. So we want to change, we want to uplift and raise the bar on where our thoughts and our focus and our actions go, don't we? Now today I'm going to hand you an SVH tool that you can use to deflate the ego and redirect the cranium brain consciousness and the subconscious to support prosperity consciousness and the development of higher vibrational patterns and beliefs in your ability to create a surplus, that you continue to flow in a manner that removes our survival mode energies that limit you from being able to celebrate your abundance, and know that it will continue to flow to you as a constant. Now, you never have to manage heart consciousness thoughts because they're always constructive and helpful. So our focus will always be directed solely to the vibrational resonance of the thoughts that flow into your consciousness from the ego and the cranium brain and the subconscious. Now, the new trigger process surplus is not going to raise the value of your stock or get your boss to get you a raise. But if you have issues blocking you from receiving extra resources from your investments or blocks to getting a raise, surplus is going to help you clear away whatever it is that would limit you from being able to allow those resources to flow to you, allowing them to manifest in their timing and to assist you to come into an alignment with them. You see, SVH is an incredible, powerful tool that assists each of us to move beyond whatever it is in the past, in the present, even in the future, that could limit us from being able to achieve our highest goals. But it will not manipulate others in order to achieve the goal. So it will not move the energy in and change the price of your stock. It will not make your boss give you a raise, but it will assist you to come into alignment with the raise. And it will certainly make sure that you are not fueling any limiting parameters based on thoughts and fears that the stock market will drop or that you'll get fired and things like that. Okay? Now, it needs to be said that most of the reason that there is a resistance to us receiving exactly what we would desire and design for our life can be found within our very own selves. So like working with a strip of film negatives used by old-fashioned cameras. Remember those strips of film, and they had little squares of all those different times we were all smiling and lined up in front of Niagara Falls. The whole family looked happy. Doesn't really show that they were all fighting right up until they started smiling for the picture, but it's in that picture. Everything is stored. It's stored on the energy body. It's stored in the collective consciousness. It's stored within your cranium brain. It's stored It's stored all over the place. All of these experiences and their energies are stored there. And those frozen moments of time that exist in the live stream that we've been living are all right there. So when we do an SVH clearing, SVH absolutely moves to all those positions that we define where we'd like to go. And it works to reformat and to transform the energies around the old stories and the imprints. And it does so from the genetics, from what's held within us, from the collective consciousness, and patterns that we picked up from our parents and others in our social environment. So it's working on a lot of different levels. Even perceptions and beliefs are addressed with the SVH clearings. So let's go ahead right now. I've got a huge transformational clearing profile that I've put together for us on the topics of surplus. And while you've been listening to this discourse, your random inner dialogue has been kind of rippling along, which identifies issues within the body that SVH can pick up on. Your higher consciousness and soul and the creator are the one implementing the clearing pieces. I'm just talking, and it's stimulating recognition of the different places in the life where these issues have been energized or brought into the life and stimulated into patterns and beliefs for you. So we're going to take a moment now to activate your SVH trigger process surplus. Now I know it's a little bit confusing. We're talking about we want to create surplus. We're choosing to create surplus. And now we're going to activate a trigger process called surplus. A trigger process is an SVH tool whereby once it's activated, all you have to do is think the word surplus, and a whole great big huge swarm of different parameters of SVH clearing, from the advanced tools right down to the basic level 1 stuff, is activated. And of course, the creator and your higher consciousness and soul are the ones that are implementing it. So we're going to be implementing the SVH clearing parameters that we've been working on throughout this discourse, and your higher consciousness and soul, they have been the one accumulating all of the parameters of the work that we have dedicated. And so now we're just going to ask the creator to implement it all so that you are able to begin as, a fresh horse. You're ready to take off and ride forward with all that good energy, free of a lot of that formatting that has been implemented as a part of this SVH clearing to remove the energy surrounding it. So let's have you just close your eyes right now, as we always do with the screen authorization procedure. You close your eyes and you just imagine that a big movie screen is floating before you. And on that screen is everything that's been amassed by the higher consciousness and soul, your higher consciousness and soul. And everything is laid in place with the SVH parameters. And now all you have to do is silently ask the creator, just in your mind, however it feels right to you, Creator, is it in the highest alignment to have you implement this work for me? And then you just wait a few seconds, because what will happen is that you'll have an affirmative sense or a knowing, a feeling about this request, and it'll always be affirmative. So you'll immediately just think the word yes, and instantly the clearing parameters will have activated in the past, present, future, and your trigger process will have been activated and is ready for your use. So now that you have received your clearing on these topics, and you've activated the trigger process for your use, and you have the vision of what this upgrade will look like, you've already got that in your mind, and thoughts that you perceive that oppose the potential for you allowing even fueling and stepping into the acceptance of the miracle possibilities that can help you to make your dream come true. I want you to hold that vision and think surplus. See, we were amassing those whole visions of this. Now you're going to use it. think surplus. And the SVH clearing parameters are going to reformat the seeds and foundations that support any kind of negative thought form or genetic predisposition that would limit you from being able to begin formally, gracefully within your thoughts and your hopes and dreams, begin creating exactly that. You see, you have a vision of what the upgrade will look like. You have numbers in mind of what a reasonable upgrade will look like for you. And so that in itself is going to assist you to be able to begin creating it. And surplus is going to, one of the parameters of surplus is to light up pathways that support you being able to create that. Okay? Now, surplus is going to work constantly with your higher consciousness and soul and the constructive mind. Again, to identify pathways that will support your achieving the goals that you've set for this first upgrade and beyond. The clearing parameters that are associated with this theme that we're working on, they're very comprehensive. And of course, there are many angelic interventions and parameters set in place in the past as well as the present and the future, where the Creator will have and actually will in the future meet the words, tones, and body language of those who taught you through indoctrinations, through your observations of other people's circumstances, or the opinions of others that would limit you from being able to rise above the circumstances that would enhance your life. So think of the three monkeys, see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. The Creator actually, when you were a child, is going back to those times where you saw things, heard things, or basically even, said things yourself, or others spoke, that would limit you from being able to see that you deserve to be having the life that you would choose. Okay? Very, very cool. Now, this myriad of clearings that, were implemented, just all the different formats in this last clearing that you just authorized, is just the beginning, because there's all kinds of pieces in place that are going to activate whenever there's anything that fits the format of this program that would be tied to genetic predispositions that would activate, that are linked to primordial survival mode, fear-based beliefs that limit you from stretching beyond the current circumstances that you exist within, so that you are inspired to raise the bar, not only in the belief of yourself, but also in your belief that you deserve. See, you can believe in yourself that you can do it, but if you don't believe that you deserve it, why and how can you possibly make it work? And so this is going to open up the floodgates for infinite possibilities. It does so for everybody when they love themselves. When they raise the bar on self-love and self-belief, and they believe they deserve and that they're worthy to thrive, that is one of the major steps that opens up those floodgates. So anytime from this day forward you have a positive or a negative thought about the possibilities of your success in creating the upgrade to your life circumstances that you define, whether it's this upgrade or 9 more upgrades in the future, because you keep raising the bar. As you strengthen your ability to manifest, it's important for you to open to the infinite possibilities that are right there for you. And so when you think, you know what, I think I would like to have this now, you think in your mind, surplus. Boom, it locks on. Now you have support. You've got an angelic team. You've got your higher consciousness and soul and the Creator are working to clear away blocks to you allowing yourself to have these really wonderful gifts and the blessings of being able to thrive in this world, which I believe is a part of our birthright. So again, anytime you have a positive or a negative thought about something you want to create, think surplus. And as you move ahead through the next days and weeks, it's going to become second nature for you to notice when negative thoughts that would stop you or block you from being able to change that negative primordial dynamic associated with the acceptance levels of what is, having enough instead of the prosperity consciousness. And it's basically going to clear away what would be in alignment with that old bar, that that was set so low on how much extra is enough or too much. And in the next reality that we're creating for ourselves, we're choosing that there's no bar at all, that the sky is the limit. And every day our focus and our thoughts continue to revise and to elevate the templates of our life, and our livelihood upgrades. It upgrades as we choose the higher circumstances for ourselves. Now, you're empowered to change your circumstances, no matter what mindsets are in the way of you allowing yourself to thrive. You are empowered to do it. All you have to do is think surplus. Use the other SVH tools as well. There are so many different SVH tools that will assist you to continue to expand on this piece right here. See, we're living in a new time. We're getting old and sick, have no place in our manifestation formulas. So why would we allow that to be there? There may come a time when we're choosing to manifest castles and other lofty life experiences with just ease. And it'll be an ease that feels like magic. And whereas here I was saying to you, let's, look at a vision of what something will look like without a genie or a lottery win. Well, there's going to come a time when your manifesting is going to be as magic. You're going to feel yourself having a thought for something, and it just is. And you might think it sounds a little crazy now, but remember that the cell phone and computer and many of our modern comforts that we can't imagine living without now would have been considered impossible when I was a young girl. And we are manifesting everything that exists in our life already. So it's time for us to take the responsibility to identify the patterns and issues we have that have been limiting us from moving beyond the old formats that defined us. We're not talking about witchcraft or genies or magic wands when we talk about SVH clearing. And we're not talking about, some kind of magic wand with the trigger process surplus. These are all mechanisms within SVH. And we are claiming our birthright. And we are directing creation energy using these tools to form what we would choose, rather than allowing ourselves to flow within the streams of limitations and creations of others that lived in timelines where infinite possibilities weren't even acceptable as part of the potential reality of those beings. But it is for us. So remember that. And make this new SVH trigger process surplus second nature for you to embrace, and grab onto those other SVH empowerment tools that are available to you on my YouTubes, or if you're an SVH practitioner, you've got a lot of tools. And those of you that would like to know more about SVH, please visit our website, serenityvibrationhealing.com. Namaste. And blessings of surplus to all.